Okay, so wanted to give you one more example here. So this is number 11 from the textbook. I'm given that this is 2, this side is 3, and this is my angle theta right here. And I want to find all my different sines and cosines. So I want sine of theta, cosine of theta, tangent of theta, and then all those secondary ones. The cotangent of theta, secant of theta, and cosecant of theta. But to do all of these, I didn't give myself much room there, I need to know that missing side. So that side, usually we call it c, so c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So 2 squared plus 3 squared, c squared must equal 4 plus 9 is 13. So c equals the square root of 13. And I'm going to keep that as the square root of 13. Keep it much more exact. So the sine, let's go ahead and put in that. The sine of theta, so that's going to be equal to the opposite side divided by adjacent. So sine is 2 divided by the square root of 13. Now normally we do not like to leave square roots in the denominator. So to get rid of the square root, I have to multiply by this exact same thing over itself. So I'm going to multiply this by the square root of 13 over the square root of 13. I did not give myself room. Okay, so down here, sine of theta equals 2 over the square root of 13 times the square root of 13 over the square root of 13. 2 times the square root of 13 is just 2 square root of 13. Square root of 13 times square root of 13 just gives me 13. Because I have 13 squared underneath, I'm taking the square root. Cosine of theta is going to be equal to the adjacent side, which is 3, over the square root of 13. And again, I can't leave that as my answer because I have a square root in the denominator. I need to move, or radicalize, we would say, this. So I multiply by the square root of 13 over the square root of 13. I get 3 multiplied by the square root of 13 over 13. Tangent of theta. Tangent is equal to the opposite side, so opposite of my theta, so that would be 2, divided by the adjacent side is 3. Oh, there's nothing left to do there. That is the answer. Okay, so now we need to do our inverses. So cotangent of theta is just the inverse of this. So that would be 3 halves. Not cosine. That's not quite right. Okay, secant. Secant of theta is the inverse of cosine. And notice I'm going to look at what we started with here before I radicalized it. So if I take the inverse of this, or the reciprocal, of this, I get the square root of 13 over 3. I don't need to worry about doing anything to it. And finally, cosecant of theta, I've got to look at my sine. And again, I'm going to look at what I started with and take the reciprocal of that. So that's the square root of 13 divided by 2. So the important point here was, if you have a square root in the denominator, you do need to multiply both sides of your equation, or both sides of your fraction, by what was under the square root. Okay, good luck on these problems.